Today, I'm diving into the whereabouts of the infamous Bad Cop, one of the worst creeps to have ever shown up at the Sting House.
Also had a badge, which says he's an officer in Alabama.
Right from peeling back layers of his twisted psyche to understanding why confronting monsters like him is crucial. This video is about TCAP's greatest catch, Todd Spike.
He's brought back to the Flagler Beach police station.
So this lawman turned offender had absolutely no qualms about preying on the vulnerable while hiding behind his badge. Yeah, clearly he had his priorities all out of order. But then, thanks to the show, the PJ team managed to rip off his mask, revealing a betrayal of trust and a chilling reminder that evil can lurk anywhere, even among those who've sworn an oath to protect us. Now, cut to the Sting. The crew stumbled upon Todd Monroe Spikes during their extensive search for morons in and around Flagler Beach, Florida.
We also have a guy that says he's somewhere between Daytona and St. Augustine that's talking about.
Now, before I go into an in-depth analysis of how he betrayed the trust of the general public and that of law enforcement around the country, here's a little sneak peek of what's in store. You see, Todd is most notoriously known for coming to the Sting House with more than one weapon in his vehicle. And if that wasn't alarming enough, he also brought a good stash of tools along. Tools that could help hide a body, for instance. It's safe to say that this moron was planning on doing a lot more than just getting busy with the setup. I mean, the revelation about the weapons cache and his disturbing intentions only make this whole messed up situation even worse.
However, there is a man heading to our house, all the way from the northern border of Florida, 350 miles away.
Like, seriously, for a guy who is 41 years old, this weirdo had absolutely no shame in what he was doing. Be it engaging with dirty talk online or simply coming over to the house, Todd showed no hesitation while crossing any of the boundary. It was almost like it didn't even exist in his dictionary. I mean, just think about it. What would be running through your head to come up with a username like this?
41-year-old Todd Spikes, using the screen name Loves to Eat Your Peach.
Yikes, if that isn't disgusting enough, I don't know what is. But hey, this wasn't Todd's first rodeo. This dude was a seasoned pro. Apparently, he'd been engaging in twisted and bluntly suggestive conversation like this for a while now.
He chatted regularly online for almost a month.
And of course, he knew exactly how old the person he was dealing with was. In fact, he was more than aware of it. Turns out it was that little detail that caught his attention in the first place. Now, I'm not entirely sure what he was doing here, but this man really thought he had a lot of game. And as you can see, he had no idea that his pathetic little journey was about to meet its end. When he first struck up a conversation with the PJ crew, the dude couldn't hold his excitement back. It sounded way too good to ignore. But in reality, it was too good to be true. Because little did he know that there was an entire crew at the back end monitoring every bit of what he was saying, or rather, showing.
He sends along pictures of himself masturbating.
Yeah, the dude had absolutely no inhibitions when it came to this sort of stuff. He first talked about helping himself and then got into the nitty-gritty details of some really sickening things that he wanted to do with the setup. But that wasn't all.
The decoy tells Spikes she lives with her mother. Spikes says he could become the mother's boyfriend.
Yeah, you heard it right. The dude was willing to find any way into the setup's family by any means necessary. He didn't care what he had to do to be with her, as long as he had his fill. But wait, turns out this dude was only getting started. He offered to move in with the setup and establish illegal relations with her and her mom, or anybody else in the family. I mean, is this guy for real?
I'm sure we would have time alone.
Ew, but then you would have my mom's germs on you.
I'd wash off before.
This dude really was next level on the creepy scale, and you won't believe the kind of stuff he shared with people he chatted with. I mean, you have to listen to it. It's totally off the chart.
Spikes also tells the girl he wants to watch her perform oral sex on another man.
Literally, how deranged do you have to be to say things like that? In fact, for the first time in the conversation, the setup had some concerns fearing her own safety. It just makes you wonder if this creep was hanging around public spaces like malls or parks trying to scare people there too. I mean, if an officer didn't see anything wrong with doing things like this, what more was he capable of? Well, you'll be amazed by what he had to say next.
What if they get mad or something?
They won't. They jump at the chance. You.
And if all this obscene language and commentary wasn't enough, he sounded like he was pretty proud of what he did for a living. 15 years of being in law enforcement, and this is the kind of disgusting behavior he displayed? This dude was probably riding on the coattails of his profession just to keep the dark side of his life secret. But turns out, he wasn't on the force anymore. During the conversation, he revealed to the setup that he had quit the police force to join a family business. However, this piece of information was never clarified, nor does it justify any of his action. Most people say self-awareness is key, but with Todd, it was going to be his own downfall. Despite being closely involved with the legal system, he had absolutely no idea what was about to happen. But his response does clue us in that he was aware of the consequences if he were to get caught.
I won't, sweetie. I can't.
In fact, he even went on to reveal how cops are treated inside prison. Clearly, the fear of landing in that same situation someday was constantly lingering inside his filthy head. But it wasn't enough to prevent him from what he was doing.
Inmates hate cops. They try to kill him in prison.
Anyway, now, get ready for a wild twist. Cut to the day of the main event, and Todd decided to throw everyone for a loop. So he pledged to strut into the Sting house at a specific time, but what followed next was absolute radio silence. The crew, and actual upstanding members of law enforcement, were left scratching their heads thinking, did he chicken out? I mean, this was a plot twist no one saw coming, and the operations were called off for the night. But just then, when everyone thought they were done for the evening, Todd pulled a classic late night move. At 1 a.m., he head up the setup with the epic line, "I'm on my way." Phew. Just imagine the drama, you guys. The crew probably had everything packed up and ready to move out, and then bam! Todd's on the phone with a fashionably late entrance plan. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. Todd, all hyped up on whatever delusional courage he mustered up, got behind the wheel with a nasty plan in mind. But before he could roll up to the party, the cops intercepted him. Yeah, they weren't having any of his late night antics. Plus, let's not forget that he was an ex-cop, so they clearly didn't want to take any chances. So with lights flashing, sirens blaring, they snagged him before he could even make it to the Sting House showdown. Okay, now let's take a moment to appreciate the sheer unpredictability of what's happened so far. From radio silence to 1 a.m. wake-up call, and then the grand finale, a police bus before Todd could even get a glimpse of the Sting House. The whole thing played out like a reality show on steroids, only this was the real deal. Now, behind the scenes, you gotta wonder, what was going on through Todd's head during that silent stint? And what sudden burst of courage hit him at 1 a.m.? Did he have second thoughts, or was this all part of his master plan? And let's not forget the cop. How did they pull off the intercept mission, and what went down during that arrest? Okay, I'm getting into all that, but for now, here comes a jaw-dropping revelation.
Spike seems to drive away. The police stop his car and place him under arrest.
When the crew dug around in Todd Spike's van, it was like stumbling upon a weapon depot straight out of an action movie. And they were deadly serious. I'm talking about a fully loaded and cocked revolver on his hip and an assault rifle in the passenger seat. And if that hasn't gotten your attention yet, brace yourselves for the next bombshell. Boxes upon boxes of hollow point ammunition. Like he was gearing up for World War III or something. Seriously, what in the world was he planning on doing?
As it turns out, we may have been lucky he never made it inside the house.
Now, here's the part Dateline didn't spill the beans on. Todd wasn't just collecting heavy artillery for show and tell. Nah. He had a whole dark toolkit for what seemed like a crime enthusiast nightmare. A chainsaw, tarps, ropes, and top it all off, boat anchor. Seriously, who keeps a boat anchor in their van unless they're planning on some shady business? Can't even imagine.
That firearm happened to be a snub-nosed revolver in his front pocket.
You see, Dateline might have given us the cliff note, but the devil's in the details, and there are these nitty-gritty, spine-chilling specifics that take the story from just creepy to downright bone-chilling. Now let's press pause and absorb the shock factor. Not only was Todd packing more heat than your average action hero, but he also had this creepy toolkit hinting of something way darker. What was going on through his mind? Was he planning some heinous crime spree? Or was he just collecting the oddest assortments of tools for a side gig we don't even know about?
He also had a badge, which says he's an officer in Alabama.
What's more, he wasn't doing his part in the family business he talked about, and had instead gone back to being a police officer in Alabama.
SUV make another startling discovery: an arsenal of weapons.
By the way, how the heck did he get his hands on so many firearms?
That, along with about 800 rounds of ammunition.
800 rounds? What did this guy actually plan on doing?
Is there any legitimate reason for a cop to be driving around with all that firepower?
No.
Besides all the weapons in the world, he was also carrying these certain things.
Spikes also had 3 cell phones, 2 bulletproof vests.
Talk about dodging a bullet. I mean, literally. The chief in Florida then made a call to the Alabama station to let them know one of their cops had been arrested, and that's when he found out that
He said the guy just started working back for him.
Spikes had just gotten his badge back. Once he was reprimanded and taken to questioning, you can imagine it didn't go the way anyone wanted it to.
Todd, the only thing I ask of you when you're in here is just not to make any sudden moves. You know that drill, right?
Yeah, I know it.
Other than stating his name and address, this guy kept his mouth shut the entire time and wouldn't even cooperate with cops. I mean, not like I was expecting anything else, but anyway. As soon as the cops realized that he would not tell them the whole story, they got a warrant to search his house, and what they found there was even crazier.
They take his computers, find even more weapons, and large plastic tubs filled with videotapes.
This guy was nothing short of an evil mastermind. And why do I say this? Because when the cops went through his laptop, they found absolutely no evidence against him other than the conversation he was taking part in with the setup. They did find out how he had gotten his hands on all those weapons, however. A solid paper trail made it a lot easier. Phew. Given the situation, that's some crucial information right there.
His lawyer told us all those weapons were used by his client in his work as a police officer.
What's more, exploring Todd's residence revealed numerous containers filled with unlabeled VHS tapes containing undisclosed content. Given that Spikes was apprehended with both a video and a digital camera, I think you can probably guess the nature of the material stored on those tapes. Anyway, 3 days after he was arrested, Todd also got fired from his position, and thank God for that. He was then charged with 4 felony accounts, 2 of which included using a computer to transmit harmful material to someone of inappropriate age, and these even carried penalties of up to 15 years in prison. However, to absolutely nobody's surprise, he didn't admit to it either.
Spikes later pleaded not guilty.
But here's something really scary. The guy managed to stroll out onto the street, all thanks to the fact he managed to cough up his $10,000 bond. I know, right? It's like a horror movie plot unfolded. The audience of the show went from 0 to furious in seconds, trying to wrap their heads around how this supposed danger zone dude waltzed away with such a slap on the wrist punishment. People were straight up in shock, calling him one of the sketchiest characters ever featured on the show. And people were mad that he got let off easy. The huge gap between what he allegedly did and the kind of punishment he got played no small part in that. And who can blame them for feeling this way? But here's something else. There's this wild theory floating around that Todd Spikes, Mr. Law Enforcement himself, might have been actually aware of what he was getting himself into. Sting operation at all. Some armchair detectives thinks he sniffed out the fake setup and had a sinister plan up his sleeves. They're suggesting he was aiming to take out the arresting officers once he rolled up to the scene. It's totally like we've stumbled into a crime drama script. One person on Reddit spilled the beans of the family business Todd talked about, saying it was called the Spike Wholesale in Geneva, Alabama. Now, in a place where everyone knows each other, it's good to know that he's maintaining a low profile since the arrest. But that's not the end of this story. Todd Spikes put up a 3-year-long fight against the charges, but in the end, he caved and took a plea deal. The deal kept him out of the slammer, but they slapped him with 10 years of probation plus a lifetime on the offender registry. What's mind-boggling is the leniency of it all. I mean, this guy had a mountain of circumstantial evidence against him. I'm talking about potential danger to multiple people's lives. Now, imagine if he had made it to the Sting house. Anyway, fast forward to 2012. Guess who was back in handcuffs for a parole violation? Yep, Todd. But this is where things get wilder. While cooling his heels in jail, he decided to spice things up with a little altercation. Now, pair that brawl with his parole slip-up, and voila, this guy scored an additional 3-year vacation behind bars. But he wasn't done yet. After 3 years of jailhouse drama, Todd got the get-out-of-jail-free card in August 2015. After his release, not much information about the guy has come to light. Thankfully, for once, he has successfully managed to stay out of the news. Except this little post here where his sister has clearly mentioned that Todd is out of the family business equation. Anyway, Todd's capture on the show is an eye-opener to how someone can dodge a potentially life-threatening situation, violate parole, throw hands in jail, and still manage to walk free after just 3 years. So what do you have to say about this? Did Todd deserve more time? Let me know in the comments down below, or just leave me a message on any of my social media pages. And if you find this video interesting, don't forget to drop a like, subscribe, and turn on my post notification. And you better check out this next video right here. It's even crazier.